Hey everyone, today I'm going to show you the difference between a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 star trading breakout setup. So that way you know exactly what you need to do and exactly the type of setups that you can trade, and also the type of setups that you maybe don't want to trade as much or risk as much into. So let's get right into it. All right, and before we start, all of these 5 stocks or setup that I'm going to show you today, I personally have traded them. So I can confidently say whether this was a good entry, a bad entry, it could have been better, and exactly why I took all of them, despite this one, for example, being a 1 star setup. So let's start with this. This is UAME set up on the daily chart. It's been a stock that I personally have traded, but it is a 1 star setup. And why is it a 1 star setup? First, it is making lower lows. This is something we don't necessarily want to see. Why? Because the stock making lower lows actually is proving that it is losing strength in some way. The best way that the stock can actually show, one of the best ways that the stock can actually show signs of strength is making higher lows. For example, just like this, all of these are higher lows. But now, or here, during that consolidation period, it was making lower lows. And you can take trades that are making lower lows, but it's something that it is not perfect. But for me, that way, it's not perfect. A good sign on the other end is that it was making sort of lower highs, and actually it was kind of tightening. But again, there's not really a good setup in here, and actually we can't even see the breakout yet. So I'm going to fast forward one day, and this was the breakout. All right, so we can clearly say that it did in fact break out, but it didn't have any sort of real range. It had some strong, very strong volume on the breakout day. This is a good, this was probably the only positive thing, that and the gap to the upside. It did gap exactly or around 9.5%. So a 9.5% gap on the first day, or on the breakout day, with high volume at the end of the day. So much higher than the previous days, and actually a bit over double the average daily volume. So this is exactly why I entered. I risked a 0.25% of my account into this trade. It was coming off kind of a strong move, right? It made over 220% in around a bit over 2 months, maybe 2 months and a half. It went down, so from move right here around 150% after it pulled back. So it was kind of a strong stock. Actually, market was good, so around early October to, it broke out October 1st. So I traded this one, again, very low risk. At first it was kind of slow. It's not bad days, but for an 8% ADR stock, after 21% this is not so bad, but minus 0.5%, plus 3%, plus 4.5%, and eventually it just started to go up insanely. Like, this is insane, and this is even crazier. Like, at this point it was getting parabolic, right? So it was a bad setup. It's very, it's pretty clear that it is a 1 star setup, right? But I did decide to keep getting exposure in that because it was a clear breakout on high volume in a strong sector. So non-energy minerals, it was a strong sector at the time I traded this. And yeah, eventually, it just was a crazy move overall. And I closed my entire position that day for, so let's say I entered here. At its peak, I made over 175% or so. And then when I fully closed the position, which I believe was right here, was 63%. Obviously, I took some profits, along the way. I think my highest profit was right here at the end of this day, which was around 137%. So it was a very good trade. It was just a not so good setup. I decided it was still worth the small exposure that was, putting into it. The only 0.25% risk that I put into it was worth for me. It would be completely fine to just skip this setup. This is not a 5-star setup at all. This is a 1-star setup. All right. So here for the 2-star setup, I have SMCI. Kind of came right after a sell-off, big sell-off after big range, and now it was trading sideways, just above 250 SMA. And the reason why it is a 2-star setup, well, there's a couple of reasons actually. First one is, it's weak. It's declining moving averages. or I guess just the 200, but it's still overall it is slowly starting to reverse. We can actually see it right here. It just got back under its 50 SMA. The 200 SMA just got back under 50, so it's not bad. It actually made higher lows, or sort of, yeah, actually pretty good higher lows and then good lower highs. But it did have a fake out right here. So these days, all right? So if we go back just a bit more, or let's say right here, this was a breakout, right? It tried to break out of the range, was a very low volume day. So it kind of, I did not enter this, but it did fake out. This day, not so bad. It's a kind of retest of the higher trend line. And then it just, sold off right to the lower trend line. And then it bounced it, and it broke out again. And I traded this day right here. Clear breakout. Volume was not that high. Still was the highest volume in over almost a month. So it was kind of significant. Twice, just above twice the average daily volume. So it's not bad. But yeah, the reason why it is a 2-star setup, had a fake out right here, not the strongest stock at all. Kind of was coming off a choppy range. Very weak stock overall. It's not a leader in its sector. It just was a very clear breakout. And this one, I actually only risk a 0.25% of my account as well. So on these bad setups, on these bad looking setups, I'm still willing to get some exposure, but only a small percent of my account that I'm putting at risk. And I'm doing this because, as you saw with UAMI, if it goes and it just provides, a 100-200% run, it was worth the exposure. And then worst case scenario, I'll lose a 0.25% of my account, which I don't mind at all for these kind of for this kind of exposure. And this one kind of run a bit, but it eventually just built on the range. And when did I sell this? Oh, right here. Yeah. So this one ran a bit, but nothing crazy. I almost sold it right here because it almost closed under the 10 SMA. And it bounced, kind of built another range. I did not add to it at all. But, I could have had it right here if I really wanted to. I did not want to add here. And if it just, went back higher, and then I closed my position fully right here for overall trade of, I entered, that's it right here, 12%. And at its peak, my highest trim was at almost 20%. So it's nothing like UAMI. This was a 2-star setup, I would say, just because the range was a bit better. But it kind of was a good range actually, but despite the fake out. So this is why this was a 2-star setup. Now let's get to a 3-star setup, and this is when stocks are actually starting to look great. All right, so 3-star setup. This one was QBT. This is a quantum computing stock. And actually this has a very high ADR, so almost 18%. Good range, good higher lows and then lower highs. It's tightening, which is perfect. And then this was just before the breakout day actually. And so as you can see, it's coming off a good range. It's actually a very strong stock. Let's say just from right here, made over 500% at its peak, and then from here 350% before breakout. So if we look at it just like this, all SMAs are in orders, is perfect. Volume is slightly lowering down. It was very high right here. Again here, when it's starting to get somewhat parabolic, did not last that long. Eventually cooled off, volume went down, and then during the consolidation phase, this is exactly what you want to see. So its stock was tightening, lowering volume, and then the breakout day was actually very wild in this one. Look at this. I did trade, or I did enter it right here, right when it broke out, or yeah, exactly right here, or somewhat, because it kind of was later in the day, which is, it can play when you look at things like this. I'm not going to go intraday, but for example, by the time it went from here to here, might have been 30 minutes into open, or maybe 45 at most. So this is not crazy. It's not right at open like some of these breakouts usually do when there's a lot of momentum, but it was a bit later after open, maybe 30 to 45 minutes, which is not bad at all. It's not a bad thing. So it kind of was very wild, and it moved, when it broke out of this range right here, started to move very fast. So I did enter very fast. At the end of the first day, I was up almost 35%, which is insane. Like, for reference, it was a 65% day for a 13.5% ADR stock. And then look at this, or maybe not this, but all right, look at how it was going right after. Look at this. This actually was one of my most rewarding trades of 2024. It was at the end of the year. I risked, I think, 1% into this trade. I risked 1% because the market conditions were very good. It was a 3-star setup, let's say, but strong sector, leading stock, and actually, like I said, good market condition, leading stock in a leading sector was worth 1%. 1% is the most that I usually risk on a trade. So this, I risked 1% and it was a crazy trade. I actually pulled back very, very hard right here, minus 41% day. I took a trim like you probably saw right here after only 3 trading days at over 200%. So this was, you know, full position, back, build another range, and eventually I think it broke down close to here. Yeah. After that, it will break down. This is when I sold my full position, the rest of my full position, and it was at just above 100% profit. So my highest trim was right here, 212%. I might have taken another trim right here, 112% or so, and then I sold the rest of my position over 100%. And then I think it breaks down. Where is it? Here it is. So it broke down, and I completely avoided this, you know, this huge gap down, another 43%, minus 43% day, because I sold my entire position when it closed under the 10 SMA on the daily chart. I do this every single time, and you'll actually see it at every one of these setups. So this was a 3-star setup. It's a very good setup. It's good looking. It's not perfect. You know, 5-star means perfect, right? So just to clarify, 5-star means perfect. So there's not a lot of 5-star setups in the market. 3 to 4-star can be good setups. Under, you know, 1 to 2 can be, you need to be more selective. This was a very good setup. And actually, you guys saw that it was very rewarding as well. Probably my most rewarding one of 2024. But now it's time to see the 4-star setup, which is even better than this. So this is a 4-star setup, RGTI, another quantum computing company. Look how good this looks. Just look at this. This is beautiful. Look, first thing you see, all SMAs are in order right here, right? Look at this huge line of high real lows. It is perfect, and good lower highs right here. It is tightening up almost perfectly. Very, you know, volume is lowering down, coming off a very, very crazy move. Look, on this run, made over almost 1,000%, then pulled back, and, you know, kind of building a range. And you can actually sort of see something like this as well, but I did not trade this. So what I did trade is this breakout right here. As you can also see, this is, you know, 6.5% ADR stock, and right here it broke out at the end of the day. I actually did enter this day, average volume day. I did enter a started position, I believe. So only a 0.25% risk, despite the, you know, the good setup, because the low volume, the late, and it broke out very, very late. Like, I think 5 to 10 minutes before market close. This is extremely late in the day. So I did not want to let that slide. I want to get some exposure. If it would have broken out, same exact thing early in the day, I would have risked 0.5% for sure. But, you know, just the fact that it was so late, volume was so low, it was actually average. So it's not something you typically see on a good breakout day, on a momentum breakout. So I only risked a 0.25%, and as you can see, the next day just went up crazy. Next day did a almost 15% day, so this is over twice ADR, and it just kept going, right? So like I said, I risked a 0.25% right here. At this point, I was up from, let's see, right here, I was up almost 100% or so. Then I believe, yeah, right here, build another range. All right, so just, we'll cut this up right here. This build another range, another sort of setup. So let's say we look at this way. and then this way. It's not the best setup at all. It's very small. It's not tightening much, but it was, I mean, it was clearly the leading stock in its sector, leading stock in the leading sector. And this was almost, what, like 2 months, a month and a half ago. So market was actually good. I had a great run. This stock I held so long. So right here, when it broke out again, this was a breakout. It was not the best breakout at all, but I did add to my position. So 4-star setup, because, I mean, was it good? The setup was almost perfect. Look at this. It's insane, right? Only thing that could have been better is when I did take it. So on this small day, volume could have been higher, could have broke out early in the day. And this is pretty much the only thing that we're missing. It did go on a huge run. I added 0.5% risk right here. So total risk into this position was, 0.75%, but I did take some trims. So I was well into profits at this point. It went up higher again, higher. I think this was the highest it's been, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. Oh, no, it wasn't. Almost. So, from my first entry to the peak of the move, 240% trade. My highest trim was actually at this day right here. So my highest trim was at 225% or so, and from my ad, when I rebought the position, was around 75%, and I sold my entire position right here for, I think my average when I sold the position was like 80% or so. So it kind of took right here, which was 47%, and then right here, which was 160%, since I risked more on the rebuy, kind of weighted more, but overall, was around 80% when I sold the entire position. This was a 4-star setup. It doesn't get much better than this, but there's still some stocks, some setups that are even more perfect than this. So let's get right into it. And here it is. This is my 5-star setup. One of the best setups, one of the best trades I ever did. It was earlier this year, around February, I believe. Yeah, early February. And this was actually my most rewarding trade of 2025. And it was early this year. I'm going to explain why. I did risk 1% of my account in this trade. I'm just going to show you guys, but before that, I'll explain why it is a 5-star setup. First, all SMAs, simple moving averages, are in order. So this is the 200, 50, 20, and then the 10 SMA. They did cross, but it recovered pretty quickly. Good higher lows and very great lower highs. This is perfect. This is tightening up a lot. And before this range, it's from here, when it kind of took off for the first time, at its peak, it was almost a 200% move, which is not insane, but it's still a remarkable move. BBI, this is an AI stock, obviously, but this was at early February. Market conditions were great. I don't know if you guys remember. I don't know if you guys traded during that period, but it was a bull run just before President Trump actually took the throne, I guess. But the market went crazy. So during that range, volume was lowering down pretty quickly. So you can see the volume moving average is tilted downside. So this is perfect. It's going down. And this was actually the first day, or the last day before the breakout day. This was the breakout day. The breakout day was a bit calmer. I mean, it was still 16% day, which is great. It's a very good day. And the gap was, when it's gapping right outside of its range, it is perfect. This is one of the best things you can ask for, because you see it right away that it's breaking out, right? You don't have to wait. You don't have to wait until a certain confirmation other than your intraday confirmation, or in my case, my intraday confirmation, but you see it right away, right? You don't have to see and to wonder, all right, well, do I gotta wait until it breaks this high, or do I gotta wait until it breaks my trend line, or whatever it is? It broke out completely, and it gapped outside of its range, right away. Gap was around 6%, or maybe 6.5%. So it was very good. And so I took an entry right here or so. Never could be perfect. I still have to wait, and before I enter, it raises a bit, obviously. But I'm going to remove this and look at this next day. 40, almost 45% day. Look at this volume. And yeah, on the breakout day, volume was actually higher. It was the highest it's been in like a month and a half, or no, around a month. So breakout day, smaller day, highest volume in around a month, gap straight out of its range, perfect range, or almost. This went down, but it was still making higher lows, so it's not nothing to worry about. Obviously, range won't pretty much ever be perfect to the millimeter or to the penny, but this is pretty much perfect, right? Good breakout, and then insane continuation, sort of pull back, and then huge continuation again, another 27% day, I believe. Yeah, kind of went again here. I believe this was the highest close. So let's say I entered right here. I took my first trim at the end of this day, 52% in 2 days basically. Was very good. I think I trimmed like 10 or 20%, not much. Then I took a trim right here, 85%, and my highest trim was at 110%. So percentage wise, it was not my highest winner this year. I had some trades that did over 300% or so. I actually had some options, but I did over 2000% this year, and actually not so long ago. But just because of I had small trims into that one, I risked 1% of my account, and it moved so fast. It was a very, very rewarding trade. And I'm not sure, but I believe it was probably my most rewarding one in 2025. And yeah, now it closed right here. So this was the close, and so around 70% from my entry. This was a 5-star setup. And yeah, again, I closed because I sell the entire position because the stock closed under the 10 SMA on the daily chart, and in this one it went down. Like, I do this because when it closes under its 10 SMA, 10 SMA is the fastest SMA that I have. When it closes under the 10 SMA, it's actually a sign that the stock price or the trend, the short trend, so 10 SMA means 10-day simple moving average. So it means that the 10-day simple moving average, or the trend during that 10-day that you're looking at, is reversing. So sometimes it can still go up after, right? But in a lot of cases, it just did like this, right? So from its peak, this was the highest it's ever been, when I entered or when I was in the position. From its peak, I lost like 23% of my position, or 23% of unrealized gains before I sold the entire position. But if we look at this right here, went down as 45%, and maybe it went down, it went down even lower. So, it's kind of, you actually can never sell at the exact top, but what you can do is sell. My strategy kind of gets you very close to the top, sort of close to the top, without guessing. You don't need to guess. You just, you wait, and you have a very simple one-step setup, one-step plan. You just, it closes under the 10 SMA on the daily chart, you sell your entire position, that's it. So this is what I did, and it saved me from 52% loss. So this was a 5-star setup, or this is what I would rate a 5-star setup. Obviously, it changes, or it differs from pretty much everyone, but based on how I trade, based on my experience, based on the setups that I personally traded, because there are probably some better setups that I either did not see, that I either did not trade, or maybe I wasn't even trading when these setups, got in the market. But from my experience, from my past trades and everything, this was my ranking of a 1-star, 2-star, 3-star, 4-star, and then a 5-star setup, which is BBAI in this case. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This has been fun to do. I kind of made some research on my previous trades and look at, all right, this was a very good trade. This was a good trade, but this setup wasn't that great. But as you can see, this one is 5-star setup is from February 25. So it's, at the time I'm filming this video, it's what, like 8 months ago, maybe 9 months ago. So these don't happen often. RGTI one that I showed, 4-star setup, was like maybe a month or 2 ago. But anyway, it is up to your interpretation. This is just my personal view of these setups. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys can actually take this information and maybe apply it to your own charts, to your own trading style. And if you want more of these videos, let me know in the comments, subscribe to the channel, and as always, lock in, stay disciplined, and I'll see you in the next one.